So I've been thinking a lot about how every week I get up here and I tell you how great and awesome my life is. And that some of you may be equating great and awesome with easy. And it's not. There's a way in which being in this work, and it reminds me of years and years ago. I remember I told you I had 97 jobs, so one of them was for Club Med, which at the time was one of the first all-inclusive resorts, usually in the tropics. I was at Paradise Island. I was hired as their entertainment director, and the thing, the saying at Club Med was, the work is easy, the lifestyle is hard. And what they meant by that is you were never off. As soon as you walked out of your room, you were on, because that was the job. Now, I was entertainment director, so the job wasn't hard, but it was constantly always the case once you walk out of your room. And here, in this job, I don't even get off when I'm at home.
Like a mother.
There's this constant work of working on my consciousness, working on me being awake. And that's the hard part, that if I don't stick to, I can just as easily as anybody, and do, roll into the day-to-day drama of, oh my God, what's going on in life? Then I have to catch myself over and over and over and over again, and by doing that, my life becomes awesome. Now, the thing I want to let you know about this is you don't have to catch yourself 100% of the time. In fact, I'm pretty sure I'm somewhere between 60 and 65% at this point, which is not bad since I remember when I was at 50 or less. You got to get over 50 to really start seeing change. But you don't have to be at 100. Right? You don't have to be like vigilant all the time, every single moment. Because if you do that, you'll burn yourself out fast. I have. So I know that can be a result of thinking that this is about the 100% vigilance. No. Now, anybody who's been in a meeting with me here knows that I am not always at my best. My wife will tell you I'm not always at my best. But the idea is that then you catch yourself, right? And then you bring yourself back to that place of, okay, I know better than this. I know better than this. And so the big thing that I've been thinking about this week is authenticity. Because it's come up for me in several different ways just this week. And how easy it is to slide away from that. And I know that I've spoken to you about not shooting on yourself. This particular week, I was realizing that it's probably the most important piece of what it is we teach here. That shoulds are insidious. Assumptions, and assumptions are the same as shoulds, by the way, are insidious in getting in our way of being our true selves. And that when that happens, that's when we fall into the place of, I don't know what my purpose is. I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing with my life. I don't know what should be right or wrong here. And once we're in that place, we get lost as to who we are in the doing or trying to figure out the doing. We can really get lost in who we are. I told you guys about when I left insurance and got down to Asheville, which I'm in deep prayer with this week, as they are mostly underwater. And still had a family support, because even though I got paid a lot of money when I sold my book of business, after 3 years, I had written a novel, which I sent out to 60 different publishers, and this is before self-publishing, which I really wasn't into anyway. And mostly, and all the rejection letters were pretty funny. They'd all come back saying something like, we're really not interested in your book, but when you send in your book, you're supposed to send it in with a bio, a one-page bio of who you are. And so consistently, they'd send back, but if you ever want to write your memoirs, we'd be interested in that. Yeah. See, I'm going to a center in Asheville. I'm starting to put my life together, starting to see a little bit clearer, a little bit. But because it gets really insidious around the shoulds and the things that are built into us that we're not even very clear about sometimes, before I knew it, I met a woman who I really liked a lot, and maybe even loved a little, and got involved with her. And I was really doing well. I was living in a house where all my bills were handled. I had extra money to do what I wanted, and I had a lot of free time to discover about myself who I really was. And then when this woman entered my life, she had a lot of ideas about what I should be and how life should be, and we needed a bigger house, and so we wound up building this really big house on top of this mountain, 3,000 square foot on 6 acres. It was a stunning house. Gorgeous view. And to support it, my sister had called up and said, listen, I need another computer programmer. And I know you know nothing about that, but I'll bet you could learn. And so she started sending me work, and I started buying books and started on-the-job learning on how to build these computer programs, and I hated it. But it paid really well. I mean, really well. But I hated it. But I had a family support, and now I had this really big house on top of this mountain. And got really caught up in all that. And once again realized I lost myself. I was nowhere to be found. And so I got angry. And I got crabby. And I started not to snip at people and do all those things that we do when we're not happy with who we are. And it took blowing all that up to finally get to a point of, I really need to know who I am, because working and being in the world any other way is just not working for me. And so that is when I wound up in the cabin in the woods. It was like, I need to figure this out. And I came out an entirely different person after 2 years there of just being with myself, not dating, not seeing a lot of folks. I mean, I went out for groceries, did the normal stuff, but for the most part, kept to myself in terms of the discovery of who I really am in this life. And that's not so easy to do because we get so caught up in the doing. It is the doing that gets in our way of discovering our own being. And we like to be busy, and we get caught up in being busy and thinking we got to do this, and we got to figure out, what needs to get done. And in all that doing, we can be lost. And even now, sometimes I could get lost because the work doesn't stop once you discover. Because the world wants you to be something else. Wants you to be what they... I have realized and said for years that if everybody in the world, including all you guys, behaved exactly the way I think you ought to, my life would be better. Now, there may be some of you, I'm betting I'm not the only one who thinks that about the world and others, right? But the world doesn't behave that way, and yet sometimes, I hear people talk about control. I've got to control my life. I've got to control my environment. I've got to control this, and as soon as you get into control, you have lost yourself. Because then it's all about the control. Instead of being in the joy of who you are. I love being in the joy of who I am. And sometimes, because life wants you to do what they want you to do, it can pull you, and it pulls me. And so I get my fingers in the gears. And people who have been in meetings with me around here know this, that I can be very forceful about what I think is right. And it's only afterwards I go, what was I doing? I should have had a V8. Life takes care of itself. The best things that have happened to me in my life have happened when I'm not the one trying to be right. Amen. And that's what I'm offering you today is, it's so easy to want to be right, to be sure you've got the right answer. I know it is for me. And yet the work is to go, wait a minute. If I'm being fully my authentic self, that's when stuff shows up. That is exactly my next step to do. That is perfect for me. Now, if it may not look like it, but somehow this is leading to a higher quality of life. Even if I know it, I could do that better. I could do that better. Am I the only one who's ever had that thought? Yeah. If they only did it my way, then things would work out really well. I got to work with that thought. I got to go, hold on. My life works when I'm just being me and relaxing in that. Then whatever's going on out here is going to work out, is going to take care in ways, but that takes courage, right? It takes such courage to take the risk of letting go and going, okay, I'm going to let this unfold. And then we can take a look at what unfolded and go, well, that didn't work. I really needed to have my fingers more in the gears. Wait 10 years. And then tell me that didn't work. Right? In the moment, it's easy to say, I should have been in there more. I should have done more, because if I did, it would have worked. It would have worked better than it did. But I've learned that if I wait 10 years, I look back and go, oh, that worked out perfect, because otherwise I wouldn't have wound up here. All the things in my life that I thought didn't work out actually did, because they all led to me being here. And so it's easy to look at something in the moment and go, this isn't working, when in fact, on some level, if you are being your authentic self, it is. It is feeding you in ways you can't even imagine. And that's what we're working with here, that idea that life has its own, is organizing around your happiness in ways you don't know. Even when it looks like it's not working. One of the things that Ash said to me when we first got together and she decided I was going to be her person, was what made her decide that was how I organized around her happiness. Well, I've noticed that life is doing that for me. Life is organizing around my happiness, even if it doesn't look like it in the moment. Trust, courage. These are the things it takes. And being willing to not get pushed around by the drama of your life. My friend Casey was telling me, she and her partner, they're in their 70s. And she was telling me the other day that she was feeling like a slouch because her partner is like always, I'm doing this and then this and then this and then this. And Casey likes to just sit out in her garden in the back, right? But watching him do all this stuff made her start to feel like she had to do more stuff. Until she realized, hold on a second, that's not who I am, that's who he is. We are so influenced by those we care about and love and respect that we can lose ourselves in them. I have actually had people say that to me, that I am losing myself in you. Maybe you've said that to somebody else or felt that about somebody else, or somebody else has felt that about you. If you have a strong personality, others can feel lost in you if they can't find it in themselves to be true to themselves. And it doesn't take a boundary the way some people think. It takes an anchor. It takes a way of being that builds this foundation in here, which takes courage, which takes risk. But these things that what's possible when you do that, when you become your true self, is extraordinary. I'm reading this book for the third time because this is one of my favorite stories. It's by Herman Hesse. It's called Narcissus and Goldman. And it's about these two guys who meet at a monastery. And one is dedicated to being at this monastery and is clear that that is his beingness. This is where he belongs. He feels at home there. The other guy loves Narcissus so much that he is sure that it must be his calling too. But one of the things that happens, which has been true for me, is when I am fully in touch with my center, I can easily see when somebody's not. When you are in touch with your center, you can see what the difference is when you're there. And so Narcissus saw this about Goldman and said, actually, this isn't for you. You have another life. And at first, Goldman was really pissed off about this. He's saying, who are you to tell me I have another life? Who are you to tell me that this isn't where I belong, that I'm not as good as you? And Narcissus, as good as me? This has nothing to do with being as good as me. This has to do with what's your center. Who are you? And so ultimately, Goldman finally discovers that Narcissus is right, goes out into the world, goes through all these extraordinary disasters and adventures, which at the end leads him back to the monastery, where he winds up making this sculpture that is divinely made, that is stunningly gorgeous, that blows everybody's mind away because he had found his center. In each of you is a magnificence, a divine star of brilliance, of creativity that is yours and no one else's. There is no one you need to follow. There is no one you need to be like. There is a center in you that if you take the time to discover and be with, take the courage to risk who you are really, the life that is actually made for you will appear. And it doesn't matter if you're 90 or if you're 10. The life, it's never too late to find this center so that the life that is extraordinary is there for you. That's what I hold for each and every one of you. Thank you. I love you.